Middlekauff! Ham reporting for duty. We're mixing it up a little bit on this show, John.
You got to be able to throw not just fastballs, guy, not just curveballs, but the occasional changeup.
That's right. And so today we've got this whole show is an interview with a guy that we think is pretty interesting as he gets ready for the NFL draft. He is receiver prospect Khalil Shakir.
Yep, ran a 4.35 at the combine. Boise State wide receiver from California. I think he's going to go on the second day of the draft, somewhere probably between pick 55 and 80 range. I mean, he's very productive player, very tough. And just obviously just an interesting, clearly you'll hear he's a high level guy.
Yeah. He was a fun guy to talk to. And I think whoever drafts him, whether it's the Patriots, the Cowboys, the Niners, I don't know. Whoever drafts him, I can already tell you what the stories are going to be about him by the team, by the people that cover that team. It's going to be his tape has some major highlights. His tape has some impressive consistency, and he's a high level guy. I mean, before we talked to him, you watched his tape. We both did, but you're the former NFL scout. What'd you see?
I mean, he's just he ran a 4.35 at the combine. I don't know if he plays that fast, but toughness, instincts, hands, playmaker. I mean, just productive. Obviously,
versatile.
We learn about the guy. Yeah, he has 4 rushing touchdowns. He had 19 touchdowns the last 3 years. And obviously 2 years ago, the Mountain West played like 7 games. He's just a very, very good player. And to me, the great part is when you're a wide receiver, like if he is drafted in the 3rd round, let's say, and is good in a couple years, everyone's going to know, like, how about the guy on the Patriots scored 7 touchdowns? Like you immediately become famous.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we talk to him, John, let's tell the people about our friends at Manscaped, manscaped.com. Use the promo code HAM for 20% off and free shipping. The world is talking about it. We've been talking about it for years. They sent us the goods years ago, and we are loyal users. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code HAM for 20% off and free shipping on the best in men's grooming.
Lawnmower 3.0 or 4.0, excuse me. 4.0. I got the 2.0, I got 3.0, and obviously we got the 4.0. It's fantastic. I'm actually might be in time for a little trim, here sooner.
Clean up on aisle 5.
Yeah, time bathroom. I'm coming in. So yeah, need to do some of that. I love the Weed Whacker guy. The Weed Whacker. Not that I don't love the lawnmower. It's pretty awesome. I've never owned anything like the Weed Whacker. It's the first time I've ever used anything like that, and for so long. I think you were the first one that mentioned this to me because I used to just tweeze, and then you said, you got to be careful with that. And then I remember looking it up. It's like, wow, there's people that go to the hospital if you do the wrong tweezer with the nose hair. The Weed Whacker, it's so easy, 1. It's not very loud, and 2, it's painless. Like it doesn't pull or anything. It's just
The first time I used the Weed Whacker, which is for the nose and ear hair trimmer with the proprietary skin safe technology, I was kind of nervous. I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't done it before. And then it was great. It was fantastic. The proprietary skin-safe technology helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in your nasal and I don't know what your earsole.
Have you used for the ear? I'm going to go do that right now. That's genius. You do not want it. One thing with the Manscaped products, right? No tugging, because tugging can just be a violent
danger zone,
a violent move. Yeah.
Join 4 million other men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com and use the code HAM for 20% off and free shipping. That's code HAM at manscaped.com. Manscaped.com, code HAM, 20% off and free shipping. Whoop. So, Khalil Shakir. Should we dive into it?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Hope you guys enjoy. John, it is great to have with us today from his home where he's training in Boise, Idaho. Former Boise State receivers. He gets ready for the NFL draft. Khalil Shakir. Khalil, it's great to have you in the show, man. We appreciate it. Getting ready for the draft and all that. So it's great to have you, man.
Yeah, like I said, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity. Excited.
I do think we need to we need to disclose something. You're looking at 2 Fresno State guys right here. Haberman, this guy lived there for about a decade, went to school there. I was a graduate assistant for Coach Hill there.
Okay.
Now, in fairness, my 2 years at Fresno State, you guys beat the shit out of us. That was Kellen Moore, That was some beatdowns. So you know, and hell, I'm looking at the score right now. Guy, the final score this year was 40-14, Boise State.
Well, only because Khalil didn't get called for that OPI in the corner of the end zone.
Look, man, no bad blood, man. I know we did it to y'all once again this past year, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. No, it's it's good to get that out. I think we feel it's hard for us, not hard for us. It's always been funny for us because Boise State has changed coaches, they've changed players. Nothing much has seemed to change at Boise since Dan Hawkins left a long time ago. And Dirk Cutter and Coach Pete and on and on and on. And I think people from outside who were old Western Athletic Conference people, like, Dogs and Boise was in the WAC back in the day, and then the Mountain West. There was always that question of like, what is going on up there? What is going on? So what is it? Why has Boise over the years, you think, maintained such a level of consistency?
Well, I think it's because, we have adopted the mentality blue collar, being blue collar. So, every single day, wake up and it's time to go to work, and everybody's going to grind. We don't let anybody who's, tries to, slack off on the day or not go as hard. Player accountability is huge at Boise, and it has been. And that's why I feel like, the program has been so successful. It's just because of the accountability held amongst the players and the coaches as well. The coaches hold themselves to, a very, very high standard, which it, trickles down to the players. So I think just that, blue collar mentality and the way we've been, the way we just work every single day is the reason why, we show up on game days and show out.
Well, I think one thing that's cool about your program that I actually think has a lot of parallels with Fresno State is it's a family. You're talking to two guys that are from Davis, California, where Chris Peterson went to school. And then the two coaches that you played for are both Boise guys, right? Mm-hmm. Fresno State, Pat Hill now has Tedford's back. It's just, it kind of some similarities in the program. Obviously had a lot of success and guys to the league, but Boise guys are pretty. I mean, the two guys you played for literally played for the program. I mean, that's pretty. That's not that normal. I would say back-to-back coaches at a high Division I level. Yeah,
no doubt. I definitely think that when you have somebody who wore the same jersey that you wore and that put in the same work that you put in, that level of respect and that level, to go out there and grind every single day just shoots through the roof. You have a guy who put in the work, who did his time. Now he's back coaching and, he's able to relate to us a lot more than somebody who probably didn't, put on that same jersey. So he knows, I mean, he was one of the guys, Coach Avalos, the guys who started that, blue collar mentality and just grinding every single day, back in his day when he played, and he was a baller as well. So, you just, as a player, you relate to that a lot more, which makes you want to work that much harder for him,
I mean, one thing we can all agree is Kirby Moore, a Bronco turned Bulldog. That's cool. Well, we can agree on Kirby Moore.
No, that is dope. That is.
He was a good player. I mean, his brother was slinging the pill to him.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually talked to Kirby Moore in the recruiting process. For trying to get up to Fresno, and him talking to him at the time. But you visit a place like Boise, and I mean, for me, my head didn't sway the moment I left the city. So it's just an amazing place up here.
I think one thing John worked in the NFL as a scout for the Eagles. Before that, he was at Fresno in recruiting, and I've been around it for a long time. Recruiting has gotten so complicated now. They added the signing day and obviously the portal and on and on and on. But like, recruiting is always fascinating. There is a number assigned to you. There are stars assigned to you. And then that's just what everyone tells you are. Like, you're a 3-star, you're a 4-star, you're ranked 48th in the state, right? So what's it like to be recruited? What's it like to have that label attached to you? Now, I'd read a few spots, 3-star, 24/7 actually had you as a 4-star, but it looks like you had a few Pac-12 offers. But like, just take everybody listening. Like, what is that like to be, a high school kid and everyone else is telling you what you are?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good feeling, but it's also a curse as well. I feel like when you get into the process, you're a young kid, you're in high school, you're trying to figure out your way through life and where you want to end up, putting yourself at the best school to set yourself up for your future. So it's a lot of big time decisions you have to make, and putting yourself at the right school. You see a lot of guys who go to a school and, it wasn't what they expected, and they enter the transfer portal, so things like that. I would say, recruiting is it's fun, because you get to sit there and be like, okay, I have X amount of schools that I could choose from. And I want to make sure I pick the right one. I can take as many unofficial visits than 5 official visits. And, that's always a good time. But like myself, I only took 1 official visit to Boise. And I think, when you're labeled as, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. When you get to school, you're going to have guys who are all kinds of stars, like have, 2 was down to 0 stars to 5 stars. You're going to have guys all on the team that, have that. And I think either way, you're going to have to come in and grind. You get into, playing football, whether it's D1, D2, whatever it is, and everybody's going to grind because everybody's trying to reach the ultimate goal, and that's making it to the league. So you have guys, no matter what star, I've seen walk-ons who, who didn't have any stars come in and just tearing the 4-star, 5-star.
Wasn't Van Der Esch a 0-star? Like, I think he was like an 8-man football guy or something.
Yeah. That's a crazy story. And that's what Boise is. You got guys who, people don't really know who they are. Then years later, or a couple years later, it's like, who is this kid from Boise State? And next thing you know, they're tearing it up in the league, So I think at the end of the day, stars and all that type of stuff, and, you have 30 offers, whatever. I don't think that stuff really matters. I think it's just putting yourself in the right position to set yourself up to have a successful football career.
Well, you're now being talked about as a guy that, be a second-day pick. When you're coming out of high school and go to Boise, typically the type guys that go there maybe don't have the hype, like a guy that goes to Texas or Oklahoma or wherever. When you decided for Boise, was there any other schools that you thought about going to, going to the Pac-12 over Boise State? Like, what was your final couple schools when you made the decision?
Yeah, I mean, my initial, thought to it all was, I have Pac-12 offers, and then it's okay, I have Mountain West offers. When you look at the conference, even though the Mountain West is, dominated the Pac-12, it's like, oh, but I have this, I have this Pac-12 offer, right? So it's like, I feel like once you get that out of your head, like, okay, it is Pac-12, but at the end of the day, all the Mountain West schools, work those other, conferences every single year. And it shows every single year that no matter what division or no matter what conference you end up in, no matter what school you go to, at the end of the day, you got guys who put in the work and believe, and they want to win, and they work together well as a team. It doesn't really matter what, conference you end up in. Like I said, Mountain West has, shown every single year that they can compete with every other conference.
I think it's probably a good spot. I don't want to ask John's question here about the portal, but I think it probably makes sense here. Why don't you ask him, John? You had a good question about the portal.
Well, I remember when, Brian left to become the Auburn coach. One, just from a college football standpoint, that was a huge story, because I would say it was a little out of nowhere. You were living in it. I mean, you saw the guy leave. I'm sure he was a big part of your recruiting. He's an offensive guy. So when that happens, one, what's it like being a player on a team when a coach leaves? And two, you had a lot of success by that point in time. I'd say the transfer portal feels a little crazier now than even it did a year ago. But was there any talk about you going to the SEC and following them? Did you think about transferring to another school, or just tell us that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough situation. The team found out on Twitter. We were on I believe our winter break, and I was down in Florida actually, and I wake up and my phone's blowing up, and I'm like, what is going on? And people were just like, just check Twitter. And, Coach Harsin was leaving. And obviously that's not the best way to, excuse me. That's not the best way to figure things out or find things out, is when you go on social media. And, at that time I'd been under Coach Harsin for 3 years, and, like you said, had a bit of success under him. So that's a unsettling feeling as far as what the future looks like.
Was he the OC too? Was he calling plays?
He wasn't the OC, but he did help call plays.
Yeah.
The staff that he had built around him at that time, especially the offensive staff, kind of all worked together to game plan and call the plays and things like that. So yeah, like I said, it's an unsettling feeling about, the future of where I was going to be. But for me, one thing that I told myself when I committed to Boise was that I wasn't truly committing because of the coaches. I was committing because of the university and the community. And I think that helped me a lot make my decision. Okay, I'm going to stay here because the community means a lot to me. The team means a lot to me. The brotherhood means a lot to me. So I'm not going to follow a coach to, to Auburn just because, it's a, bigger conference. At the end of the day, my brothers, we all decided to stay here and go for one more year with each other. And I think that when it came down to making that decision, it wasn't a hard one for me, just because I knew that what I had here at Boise was much more than, going somewhere else. So like I said, the brotherhood here at Boise State is strong, and, my head definitely didn't sway as far as transferring. It was just, okay, now who's going to be our next head coach? And obviously we knew who the candidates were going to be. Obviously Coach Avalos is the head coach now, but he was somebody who right away his name was being thrown out there, and we were all just excited because most of the guys on the team had been recruited by Coach Avalos. He was there my freshman year before he left. So we all had a connection with him, and we were just hoping for the best. And at the end of the day, it all worked out.
Is the transfer thing something that's come up a lot with the scouting community when they've talked to you? If you thought about doing it, like, has anyone asked you that question? If you thought about going to the SEC or anything?
Yeah, I've got that question a lot, and I answer it how I just answered it here. It's not, like I said, I didn't come attached to coaches. I came attached to the university, and I think that in itself speaks for itself as far as my commitment to the team, my loyalty. My loyalty is strong to Boise State, and like I said, I wasn't going anywhere.
All right, the NFL Combine. What was that experience like? Was it nerve-wracking? Was it fun? And I think John had a good idea before we started talking to you. He said it might be interesting for people to hear just what is it actually like. Tell us about it. What's it? Put us in your shoes for a day at the NFL Combine.
You're checking in to leaving. What's just the experience?
To getting your assigned tights, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. From the moment you get there to the moment you leave, you're busy every single day. You're waking up at 5:30, 6 in the morning, and then you don't get back to your room till 11 midnight. So you're busy all day. And, like I said, from the moment you check in, you at the airport, you hop on buses and you get, shuttled to the hotel, and then you drop your things off and it's go from there. And like I said, so the schedule's just busy every single day. I wouldn't say it's, for me, it wasn't that I was nervous about it all. It was just the idea of like how fast everything and how much you're getting evaluated. Like every single step you take is getting evaluated. So like you have to be very careful of how you're going about your business when you're there, because we
take notes. Every guy's got a little notepad. Everything you do, the way you eat.
Well, I mean, even the like the group leaders are scouts for teams. Like we're all broken into groups, and so you have somebody who's an NFL scout, watching you 24/7. And outside of that, every single corner you turn, there's another NFL scout, so you just have to make sure that you handle your business the right way. I mean, it can be very easy just to sit there and have a bad attitude through it all, just because of the fact that, you have 2 medical days, and the first medical day you're sitting in the hospital for 5-6 hours getting MRIs, x-rays. And then the next day you go back, and then it's the general med day where they look at your x-rays, they look at your MRIs. You have to sit in front of teams. There's 6 rooms. You sit in front of every single team. Each room has a group of teams in there. You walk in, sit on a table. It's dead silent. No one's saying anything. And they're pretty much just staring at you. And it's like they stare at you for like 5 minutes and just kind of looking at your x-rays they have on their computer and things like that. And then you do that 6 times. So it's easy to just sit there and say, man, like, what are we doing? Have a bad attitude. But then from the moment after that, you head into meetings with teams. So you carry on that bad attitude to meeting with teams. Your first impression to a team is, okay, he has a bad attitude just because you're so sick of the medical stuff and you've been sitting around all day. So for me, it was all about just keeping a smile on my face the whole time, because I knew that, every single step I took was being watched. And if I just, kept a smile on my face and kept having a good attitude, that people would notice that. So as much as it was, annoying to go there and do all the medical stuff and sit around all day and, busy schedule, it was fun, because not many people get to do that. Not many people get to sit in the seat that you're sitting in. So for me, it was just about enjoying every single moment and making sure that every first impression that I had with teams was the best.
Well, was there a moment, obviously you're a Division I football player, you're going to get drafted, but you go to this combine, and then once you do those interviews, the horn sounds and you go to, hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers want to talk to you. And then it's like Mike Tomlin sitting right there, or Bill Belichick, or what was the first moment of like, damn, this is kind of crazy with a famous guy?
Yeah, it was the first night when all those head coaches were there. Like the first night of so we did a whole bunch of checked in, did a couple other things, paperwork, all that type of stuff. And then we had our interviews that night, and it was like 4 hours set aside for interviews. And it was from 7 to 11 p.m. And we were like, a lot of the guys, we were just like, is interviews and meetings really going to go 4 hours, or is that just a time they set aside just to, get that amount of time in? And no, like you really sit there for 4 hours and you meet with teams every single second. And like you said, the horn goes off and it's just chaos, like teams going everywhere, guys. So they put us in this little waiting area, and it's like 100-something dudes in one small waiting area. Then outside of like these ropes they have set up are all the teams and coaches. And, I would say when I saw Mike Tomlinson, that was one of the first coaches that I just sat there and just looked at him like, this is mind blowing, because you got somebody like him who's been, such an amazing coach, and growing up and seeing that, then seeing him on TV, then seeing him in person, you're just like, you don't really know what to think, so it's such a surreal moment. So you just kind of have to take it all in. But then when you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, it's Mike Tomlinson, a team comes and snatches you and you're going off to go talk to somebody else. Then 15 minutes goes by, they blow a horn and you're like, okay, cool. I can, kind of think about what the team I just met with and, go over my head, whatever it is that we went over. But you don't even have time to do that. You don't have time to think. It's like you're done 15 minutes and then you get pulled by another team. And by the time you're done with that other next meeting, the other 15 minutes, by the time you stand up, there's already more teams and that want to talk to you. So they're kind of hovering over you, waiting for that moment so they can get you next. So it's like, you don't have time to breathe. It's just taking as much information as you can, keep a smile on your face and move on.
Kellen Moore walk by, give you a wink, and just keep on walking.
Actually, yeah, I don't think Kellen Moore was there. I didn't see him, but I would have freaked out. I've actually never met Kellen Moore. Being here at Boise, I've seen him a couple times.
He's like Joe Montana at Boise State.
Yeah, no, he's a legend here. He's a legend here. So I definitely would have freaked out if I would have saw him. But yeah, like I said, it's chaos, but it's also fun and it's a blessing in itself.
There's always rumors of weird questions people get asked. So any weird questions you got asked at the combine?
I didn't get asked any weird questions. I've heard that too. I've heard some stuff that I won't bring up on here, but I've heard some pretty reckless questions. And I was preparing myself for the worst. So I kind of heard stories of people getting asked questions and things like that and how to answer them.
What were you preparing for?
I was preparing for just
like, what did you in your mind think of that you needed to be ready for?
Well, for me, I mean, I was only thinking of trying to just think of, because teams will teach you an install, like a 10 minute install. And then they talk to you for a little bit and then they have you draw everything up. So that's what I was preparing myself more, knowing that questions that, I've heard from previous stories and guys and what they talk about, I was going in knowing or thinking that they were going to ask those questions. So I kind of had answers already like made up for those questions. So I was ready for them, but my mind wasn't on, what is the most reckless question they're going to ask me. I wasn't trying to think about that. I was just trying to think about ball.
Okay. I got a hypothetical for you. You're on the street. You're on a street. There are two homes. They're both on fire. In one home, there's a puppy and you can hear the puppy barking. In the other home are your cleats and your gloves, your special gloves that you wear. And you got a game the next day and the equipment staff, even in the NFL, is out. So you got those, your cleats and your gloves, but there's a puppy in the other home. And you don't know how much time you got. It looks like the fire is picking up. What do you do?
I'm going to go for the puppy, man. I'm going to go for the puppy. As much as I'd want to say, and I do have a special favorite pair of gloves. I do. But you just can't walk past a puppy.
Could you play without the gloves? Would you feel right or no?
Yeah. I played most of my, I wasn't able to have gloves till like my eighth grade freshman year. My dad wouldn't let me wear gloves or anything like that because he said I had to earn them. So I definitely could play without gloves. So just because of that in itself, that example right there, I'm going to say the puppy.
I like that.
Well, before we leave the combine, for people listening that might not have been, actually, you guys ran at night, huh? It's now prime time. You were one of the stars, given that, I don't know, you ran a 4.35 real time. Tell us about that moment. Obviously the track was running fast. I don't know by the time you ran, if like people thought like people are flying here, but just how did your last name is an S. So you would have been a little, other guys had run. What was the mindset going in? And, tell us the story about the cameraman I saw you talking about who whispered what your time was.
Yeah. So I was actually, my last name starts with an S, and I was in the second group of receivers. So I was in that last group to go that day that, the receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends all worked out. So I was like in the last group. So I just had to, we sat there and watched the first group of receivers and quarterbacks go. We're sitting on the field for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's pretty quiet in there, very eerie environment. It's just kind of like, it's a lot different than when you're playing in front of 30,000 plus people, but that is a moment that's going to set yourself up to put yourself in the best position to get drafted, how fast you run the 40, the drills, and all that type of stuff.
And given your name, you're probably only a couple spots after Chris Olave, right? He was in your group.
So, he was one of the first to run in our group. I actually ran after the dude who supposedly broke the 40 time. Thornton from Baylor, the receiver, ran the 4.21 unofficial. But I actually warmed up. I know I trained with him. We were down in Fort Lauderdale training. So for me, I knew how fast he was. I know how fast the guys from the facility that I trained at was. They had XP had the fastest tight end, fastest safety, fastest corner, all these fast dudes, and I trained with all them. So I'm like, if I want to, uphold the standard for training at XP, I have to run a fast time. And I've never been like a straight line speed type of dude. And I know that a lot of people were questioning about my 40 time. So my mentality going into it all was, no matter how long we're waiting to run this, I'm going to just make sure that I keep myself warm, get warm enough to, go out there and run as fast as I can. And at the end of the day, I accomplished that.
So what did the camera guy say to you after you finished?
He was like, so the only way you knew that you ran a decent time. So there was a small crowd, very, very small crowd in like the corner of the stadium. And if you crossed the line and, waited a couple seconds, they would start cheering. And that's how you knew you ran at least a decent time. So I crossed the line and I didn't hear any cheering. And I was like, oh no, I messed up. So then immediately I'm thinking, dang, was my start slow? What happened? Then they start cheering and I was like, okay. Then the cameraman.
What time were you thinking in your head when they didn't cheer? Were you thinking like, was there a number in your head? There was sitting there.
I was thinking I ran a 4.5, and I was like, for me, I just wanted to be in the 4.4s or less. So then I was like, oh, I messed up, and I knew that for me, it was like immediately went to, okay, I have to run even faster this next one. But I crossed the line, waited like 30 seconds to a minute. The crowd starts cheering, and I was like, okay, decent time at least. Then the cameraman looks at me and he gets the camera in my face and he just whispers, he just goes, nice time. And I just like, and I kind of looked at him and I didn't know if that camera was live or what was going on. So I tried to like whisper back, like, what was it?
Yeah.
And then he was like, he whispered 4.35. And, you kind of have to play it off. You kind of like, I didn't want to start like celebrating, like that was weird. So I just kind of like kept a straight face and just, shook my head a little bit and, kept walking. And actually one of my guys on the field, he was in the tight end group. So he already ran and he was on Twitter checking the times for, all the guys we trained with. So, heard it from him as well, but it was just it was an amazing moment, to be honest.
I mean, that's a really big deal, and I mean, it really is. I texted with a GM today who's like, we were blown away. Obviously people like you a lot in this draft class, but you do that, right? Especially behind those two guys who, everyone was waiting to see. It's just, that's a big moment for your life, right? Even whatever happens from here on out, we still talk about like Davante Adams 40. Like you just talk about that for the rest of
Davante
your career.
talks about Davante's 40.
Yeah.
No, it was fun for sure. Definitely fun. Obviously shows that all the work that you put in for 8 to 10 weeks straight of speed training, it all pays off, So it was definitely a moment that I'll never forget.
One of the things going on right now is one of the big NFL stories non-draft right now is Deebo Samuel and the 49ers trying to figure out how much he's worth. And one of the complicating factors is trying to figure out what exactly he is, because he went from star receiver to star everything last year and had the rare year in which a receiver / running back, and it became a wide back, carries a team deep in the playoffs. You're interesting because I did not realize this. You ran the ball more than you caught the ball your senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think of yourself? Do you think of yourself as a receiver? Do you think of yourself as partly a running back? Like, and how does that translate? Do you think it translates for you to the NFL?
I mean, I think of myself as the most versatile player in this draft. I think if you watch my film, over my course of playing at Boise State, I'm lining up everywhere. And I think that, that plays to my advantage as far as heading into the draft, because I could provide depth to any position on the offensive side of the ball. I've lined up in the slot. I've lined up at X and Z. I've lined up at running back. I've lined up in the Wildcat. And, I can say it, but I also have film to back it up as well. And I think that it's going to translate well into the league. You see guys like Deebo who do that, and they're, trying to make a name for whatever it is, the position that he plays, because he's playing everywhere. But you see how far he carried his team and how well he did for his team, and the numbers he put up well moving around. So I think that a guy like Deebo is kind of opening the door to guys like myself in my game as well, to how well that actually translate into the league. So I think that it definitely plays to my advantage. I think that I'm the most versatile player in the draft, and I definitely think that my gameplay is going to translate well just because of my knowledge of learning all these different positions over the course of the 4 years, and how much information I had to retain going into game days and going out there and still playing at an elite level, well lining up at every single position. So I think that it's going to translate very, very well.
When I asked just some of my buddies in the league to give me a scouting report on you, all of them said great instincts. And you mentioned your dad, wouldn't let you wear gloves. To me, instincts, obviously you hone them in Division I at Boise, but that's something you develop at a very young age. Like, when did you start playing football? Was your dad a big, coach? You went Pee-wees and junior high before, and high school, obviously you played multiple positions. Just how did it all kind of start?
Yeah, I started playing tackle football when I was 7 years old, and I actually started playing football in Japan. So I'm a military baby. My dad moved. My dad was a Marine for 24 years, so moved around a lot. It was 7 years old in Japan. I didn't want to play football at first because I didn't like the idea of getting hit or tackled at 7 years old. I'm not sure who does really like getting hit like that and tackled and all that type of stuff. But I actually didn't. I was big on soccer at first, so I played soccer years before that, and I'd just been playing soccer. Then my dad was like, "You're going to play football this year." His buddy started the league. It was pretty much each American base around had their own youth football teams for each division. So my first year playing football was actually only 2 teams in my division. We were the Lions, and then there was another team, I can't remember the name, but we played each other for like 8 or 9 weeks straight every single weekend. It was the same team, same players. That's as much kids that signed up to play tackle football at that age. So, and in Japan. So
Okinawa?
Okinawa, Japan. Yes, sir. Yeah. So that's kind of where it all started. Started at 7 years old, only 2 teams in the league or in the division, played each other every weekend. And after that first year, my dad was my coach. I started to, kind of build this love for the game that, there really is no other game like it. When you go out there, the ability to go out there and, put on pads, helmet, all that type of stuff, and go out there and hit people. The first thing that I didn't like about it when I started getting hit and tackled is the thing that I fell in love with as my time went on. The idea that this guy on defense is trying to take my head off, but I'm going to put the meanest juke move on him ever so that he doesn't tackle me and embarrass him. And that's kind of, the mentality that I've built. For me, it's whoever's going against me, I want their families to be embarrassed by how I do them on the field. That's kind of my mentality now. So it's crazy.
So you play with anger.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I play with anger. I play with having fun. I think, for that, it's for me, everybody has their reason as to why they play and how to get themselves going. And for me, I go into every game just being happy, keeping a smile on my face. But at the end of the day, I know anybody that lines across from me, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to embarrass you. It's just how the game goes. It's how I get myself going. It's how, I don't want to end up on somebody else's, highlight film. I want to put people on my highlight film, so that's kind of how it goes.
Well, one thing that jumps off when you just throw on a YouTube of your highlights is you do a lot of work over the middle. I'm not saying you're Julian Edelman, but you kind of play. There's a fearless nature of just bodies everywhere. Obviously, you have fantastic hands. I mean, you've made countless one-handed catches in your career, but to me, the fearlessness of going over the middle, and I know the rules, it's not as violent, but you see guys in college get kicked out, feels like every week. So it's like guys are still getting blasted. Is that something that you've had playing running back? You just don't, whatever, hit me, or you just know you're going to move and the guy's going to miss?
Well, it's a part of the game. Like, that's what you sign up for. You sign up to get hit. You sign up to hit. It's a big part of the game, and I know the rules are changing a lot, but football is still going to be played how football is supposed to be played. You're going to get guys who run across the middle and get lit up. And I think once you accept that fear of running over the middle goes away. A lot of guys go across the middle, and it's like, I really don't want to get hit by this safety because I know he's coming downhill, and I know he's going to light me up. I don't go across the middle think that. I go across the middle with confidence, knowing that, my awareness is, one of the best in the game. And I know that, understanding the game as well and what the defense is doing as far from a coverage standpoint too helps a lot. I know if I have this route going across the middle and they're in a certain coverage that, there are always those open zones and open spot within each coverage and within each defense to where I can kind of settle in and then catch the ball and go. So I think that fear of going across the middle first starts with getting over the fear. Is okay, if I get hit, I get hit, whatever. It's a part of the game. But also at the same time, understanding, just football overall.
I heard a great story this weekend. I was out at the Stanford spring game, and Doug Baldwin was there. And Doug got recruited to Stanford right when they hired Jim Harbaugh. He had been recruited, and they didn't know Harbaugh and David Shaw, who was his lead assistant, didn't know if they're going to keep Doug Baldwin or not. So David Shaw goes to Doug Baldwin's house, and he's trying to figure out, like, should we keep the scholarship for this guy? And he stays for dinner, and they're like, Coach, have you seen Doug play basketball? He's like, no, let's throw on some basketball tape. So they throw on the basketball tape, and the second he sees the basketball tape, he goes, oh, my God, we got to keep this guy. Well, Doug's thing, and I asked him about it this weekend, his thing was he thought of himself like Allen Iverson playing football, like, because he was all about his release, and in his mind, it was about crossing over the cornerback. And that's how he thought of himself. So who do you watch? I don't know if you think of yourself as somebody, but like, who do you watch that translates for whatever it is that you think separates you?
Yeah, I mean, I like watching a lot of guys for whatever I'm trying to accomplish within my game. And I think the main thing for me, if I'm trying to, expand my horizon as far as my release package, I watch guys like Davante Adams. You've seen him do the craziest stuff as far as especially his red zone releases, to where I always bring this up, but he acts like he's running a fade, throws the hand up, then comes right back down under to run a slant. That's just stuff that, man, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of practice to do things like that. And even guys like Davante Adams, the main thing that I like about him is when he said that, he doesn't do a whole bunch of drills when he goes out there and trains. He doesn't do all the cone work. He runs routes. He says to be a better route runner, go out there and practice running routes. And I think, that speaks for itself. When you watch him, it shows whatever he just told us, it obviously works, So if I'm trying to work on my release package and, trying to shake guys off the line, I like watching Davante Adams, but I also like watching a lot of Cooper Kupp. He plays the game with a lot of finesse and savviness. And I think that's what I bring to the table as well. He's not the fastest guy, but at the end of the day, he gets open, 90% of the time just because of what he's able to do. And that in itself, the reason why he's always open is because all around he's a great player within being a receiver and catching the ball and getting open, running routes, creating separation, but also helping a lot in the run game as well, which helps him get open. So, for him, when I just want to watch a guy who knows how to play the game and does it with such finesse, I like watching Cooper Kupp a lot.
It's funny. I didn't know your dad was a Marine, and the story makes a lot of sense now why you didn't entertain transferring when a lot of guys are doing it. I think Patriots when I hear you talk, and then I look and I see Troy Brown. You might have been in Japan at the time when that guy was becoming a living legend. Obviously, I'm sure you know who he is. Comes out to your pro day, who's now the wide receiver coach for the Patriots. What was that like? Put you through a workout? Do you feel some vibes there with New England? I know they're not really the vibiest team, but I mean, they sent their receiver coach.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was cool. I mean, I definitely, I'm sitting there warming up and he starts warming up with me. And I was just like, I didn't know that was a thing, but no.
Similar size? Are you bigger than him?
I would say I'm bigger. Yeah, I didn't put some weight on now. I didn't got a little big. So no, I would definitely say, No, that was just a blessing in itself to be able to, he was putting, me and our other receiver Octavius through the route tree and just kind of telling us what to do in the routes. And not only that, but within that, we'd run a route and he'd come coach me up right away. And I think that right there, obviously it's hard not to sit there and say that you don't feel a connection with somebody like that who, you can tell he cares about the game. You can tell that he cares about his players and only wants them to run the best routes and be the best football player and be the best version of themselves. That's kind of the vibe that I got from him on pro day. So, I'd like I said, the vibe with him was cool. And, I wouldn't, for me, it's just keeping my head open to whatever team I end up on. But at the end of the day, whatever team does decide to pull the trigger on me is going to get a phenomenal player.
Yeah, we don't want to narrow the focus here, but
No,
are there
teams.
Are there places that you think make sense for you, or styles, or coaches, or?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I know that I can play anywhere. I know I can line up anywhere. I've been told a lot, as far as going in the league and playing slot. I've heard that a lot. So for me, it's okay if that's what 90% of the 32 teams are thinking. Then let me go ahead and say, okay, what teams do fit? And at the end of the day, you don't obviously, I don't make the decision to pick a team and go. It's whatever team, wants me. So for me, it's whatever team decides to pick me obviously feels like I'm a best fit for that team. So it's just keeping that mindset, keeping my head open to whatever team wants to pick me up. And like I said, whatever team does pick me up, I'll have that sense of relief as far as they know that I'm a right fit for them. And that every day I'm going to just go in there and just work hard and, and just carry a chip on my shoulder and just ball out.
Is it a weird feeling that, I mean, you are a couple weeks away from getting drafted into the National Football League, which is basically every 12-year-old kid's dream in America, yet you have no clue what's going to happen or where you're going to go. So you're something's going to happen, but you have no clue what is actually going to happen.
You could be a Lions fan. You could be a Packers fan.
Yeah.
You could be a Dolphins fan. In 2 weeks, that'll be your favorite team.
Honestly, does that make give you a little anxiety, or is it exciting?
Oh, no. Like I said, I don't get nervous much. I don't have much anxiety when it comes down to these type of things. I've been playing ball my whole life, and for me, it's, I've put in the work and I'm going to keep putting in the work. And no matter where I end up or where I go, the grind continues regardless of what happens and what the situation is. So, like I said, it's weird, because you get recruited in college and you get to make that decision. You get to choose, but then you make it to this point and it's the complete opposite. So right now, I mean, for me, I'm just hoping for the best. And, I know that I'll be put in the spot that I'm supposed to be put into, and God willing, it'll be the perfect fit for myself.
Is there a round or spot you kind of, obviously you aspire to be as high a pick as possible, but I mean, realistically, is there kind of a range that you and your agent and just kind of the vibe of things were you thinking?
I've heard a whole bunch of things. I've heard a lot of things, and it's, day 2, day 3, just depending on whatever happens. But at the end of the day, for me, it's not even about day 1, day 2, day 3, or whatever it is. It's if I get an opportunity, just whatever team decides to give me an opportunity, I'll go ahead and prove myself from there. I know that I'm going to have to prove myself. You go in as a young dude, and, a lot of guys is this kid, worth playing on the team? And for me, I'm just going to build that respect amongst the players and the staff that I do belong there.
Something kind of big picture, and I don't know. It might be hard. You're in the moment, so I don't know if you have a perspective on this. But last year there were 5 first-round receivers taken. The year before that there were 6. But that 2020 class, there were a bunch of guys taken in the second round. I mean, it was a really productive receiver group. Last year's receiver group hit the ground running. So there were more first-round receivers taken the last 2 years than the previous 4 years combined in the first round. And I've heard theories, just simple stuff like there's a lot of 7-on-7, more teams play spread offense in college. So there's just more reps for more guys. Guys get to their junior year of college, and there are more of them on a team. There might be 4 or 5 guys that have had, 60 catches, 60 balls thrown their way, whatever the case is, versus in years past in a pro style offense, that sort of thing. So what's your view on, do you look around and see a bunch of really good receivers and the guys that you did 7-on-7 camp with, or that you work out with, or senior bowl? Do you think, again, I know it's you weren't doing this 5 years ago, so it's hard to compare to 5 years ago, but what do you think? Do you think what we're seeing, do you think there's just a deep class consistently every year of a lot of really good receivers given the way the game is played right now?
Yeah, I definitely think that has something to do with it. 7-on-7 football creates that aspect of year-round-ish football, And when it comes down to, 7-on-7, it comes down to, fundamental technique and going out there. The quarterback does only have 4 seconds, 3-4 seconds to throw the ball. So you do have to work your technique and get open pretty fast. I think that does help a lot when it goes down to, the draft class and stuff. A lot of guys in this year's draft class played 7-on-7 football. But at the end of the day, I think as the years go on, it's only going to get, deeper and deeper for each class. And I think not just the receivers, but every position as well. And I think that, you got guys who you see on the craziest things on Twitter who are in middle school and they're already as big as college people already, So I think that, times are just changing, where people are just, getting even better and starting their careers at way more younger age to get ready for these type of moments. So I think that it just comes with people just taking the game more serious, and that talent is just starting to show more and more every single year, just because of the work and the time and the commitment that guys have put into this game.
Were the 2 Ohio State guys in your group at the combine, like that you
Yes.
guys went around with? You talk about the scouts focus on everything on you. Obviously, they're 2 hyped up guys going into the combine. You're competitive, like every guy is at the combine. Were you kind of sizing them up? If that's kind of the guys viewed as the top 15 picks, you spend a lot of time with them. You pick their brain. Were you competing with them? What was that just kind of couple days like being around those 2 guys?
I don't think I spoke one word to them. I don't, for me, it's,
Tiger Woods here.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I don't know, man. I think very highly of myself. And, for me, it's I don't need to pick their brains, because I believe that, my football IQ and everything that I've done up to this point, speaks for itself. And I'm very confident within myself. But of course, there's a lot of sizing up going on. You get onto the field and you're like, am I taller than him? Am I bigger than him? Are my routes better than his? Oh, is he dropping a ball? Oh, if he dropped that ball, I'm gonna go catch this one. Things like that. It's just what we do as men in a situation like that, to where you got a group of 30, 40 receivers all standing next to each other who are being considered as being draft picks. It's like, what is he doing that that they think is better than I'm doing? And for me, at the end of the day, I did a self-evaluation after it all was over, and I was just like, I know I can compete with these guys. I know I'm better than these guys, and it's just a mentality that I carry with myself. And I know that every single person within the draft puts in a lot of work. Everybody puts in the work to get to this moment. But at the end of the day, which is something that I struggle with, you have to kind of be selfish in a time like this and worry about yourself, so that you can put yourself above others and put yourself in the best position to get drafted even higher. So,
yeah, I've heard people say that in years past. Like it's complicated. It's a weird time for. I've heard other prospects say that. Like it's a weird time because your whole life since you were 7, you're on a team.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're just on Team Shakir. Like that's the team. And then in 2 weeks, like John said, now it's back to being a team. Someone's going to be like, well, congrats on making the team, but somebody else gets that rep, or you got to do this, what you don't want to do, or whatever. I could see how that would be a little bit uncomfortable. But it's probably in some ways refreshing. Like you don't have to worry about anybody else.
Yeah. Which is, I struggle with that. And I think for me, just who I am as a person, being on my team this past 4 years and being in a team setting, like I'm a big time team guy. And when I am kind of out solo like I am right now, it can be, sort of a struggle, because it's like you don't have those brothers, that brotherhood to lean on. I was just talking to the team the other day, and I was just like, you guys have to cherish this moment, because when you get into what I'm going through right now, it's kind of like you're soloing on your own. Obviously, you have your family who's things like that, but as far as like going through the grind with each other, like that, the training that I did for the combine and things like that, and even right now, is the most intense training I've ever been through, because I'm trying to get myself ready mentally and physically for the highest level of football, and when you're in college and you're grinding, you can look to the brother to your left and your right and say, hey man, let's get this work. When you're going through it on your own, it's like you turn to your right, turn to your left, and it's, you're by yourself, so I think that I struggle with that a little bit early on when I first got into the training aspect, because I'm a huge, I thrive on the brotherhood aspect of the game, just the team aspect. So it's definitely tough. But at the end of the day, if you want to be, like myself, I want to be considered one of the best players that ever played the game, and that in itself is enough motivation for me to go out there and get it every single day.
When was the first time, obviously, you aspire to be a professional football player when you're young, like most kids, I'm sure. But like when you were at Boise, either someone said to you, like, bro, you can be an NFL player, or you realize like I can be an NFL player? Was there a moment like your sophomore year? Was there a moment with an assistant coach? Did Harsin say something to you? Like, they're like, this thing is real. This is not like you're a good player at Boise State. Like, you can play on Sundays and have a career and make money doing this.
Yeah, I think that was a combination of freshman year and sophomore year. And I say that because when I came in as a freshman, you get there and we're going through fall camp and we come together. So we split up the first couple of days where like the first 3 practices are all like the young guys and one practice, and all the vets are in the other practice. And there's only like 2-3 guys from the younger group that get pulled up to practice with the vets. And I wasn't one of those guys. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to play this year, and I know that I can play this year. And like I said, I'm sizing guys up. Like this guy's a 4 or 5 year vet, but I definitely can compete with him. Then we come together as a whole team in practice, and Coach Harsin and the receiver coach at that time, Coach Keesaw, had told me that I was going to play as a freshman. And I think that was that moment that I realized that that these coaches really believe in my talent, my ability to go out there and compete every single day and compete at a high level. And then going into sophomore year, freshman year, I didn't have the stats I want to have as a true freshman, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and dwell on that. But those coaches did nothing every single day, but, help me just be a better person, a better player overall. Going into sophomore year, that's when my role on the team changed a lot as far as, okay, we want you to play our slot spot, but going into every single game, you got to know every single position. So then going into every single week, those coaches putting that trust in me to go out there every single game and play multiple positions was when I realized that they're putting this amount of trust into me, and they obviously respect my game enough that they have confidence for me to go out there and do it every single day, every single game day. Is when I realized, that sophomore year is when I realized that, when I was like, okay, they're putting this amount of, trust into me, and my role on the team is only getting bigger and bigger every single week and playing so many other different positions. And I was like, well, I can take that and run with it. And if I go out there and just keep putting elite plays, playmaking abilities on film, then the rest is going to speak for itself.
Well, a lot of it's there. I mean, we watched the tape. There's a lot of plays to see. What's your draft night plan, or draft nights plan? Like, how are you gonna handle the draft?
Yeah, I'm going down to Pensacola, Florida. My grandparents are down there. Got a Airbnb on Pensacola Beach, and just gonna sit there and see what happens. But just got the family going down there, and it's gonna be a fun couple of days. So,
who's in the family? Who's coming with you?
It's honestly, I didn't even realize how big my family was till I started planning for this. Got a big family. So I got, a lot of uncles and aunts on both sides. My mom is coming from California. She lives in my hometown, Marietta. She's bringing only people from California. She's bringing, one of my best friends ever since I was young, and their family. And other than that, it's a lot of my dad's family down that way. They all live down that way anyway. So then my fiance and her family will be down there as well.
I'd say your dad's got to be pretty proud keeping those gloves away from you. Paid off,
Yeah, no doubt. He's definitely, I say we don't cry much, but I think he might shed a tear on that day.
He should. That's a big deal, man. It's pretty cool.
Well, hey, Khalil, thanks for taking time, man. It's awesome talking to you.
Yeah, thank you guys for, giving me the opportunity to come on here and just chop it up with you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
our favorite Bronco, man. John.
Well, I'm thinking Cowboy. I could see CD, Kellen using him in the slot with Jarwin, Boise to Boise,
We'll see what happens.
They need some receivers. They got rid of Amari.
Yeah, no.
Cowboys, baby.
I wouldn't be mad, yeah.
Who's your dad's team?
Falcons.
Oh, so,
he has his whole garage is Falconed out. He has a home garage. He has Falcons carpet, Falcons portraits, and his truck is red and black. He got red and black carpets in his all crazy stuff. His whole house got Falcon stuff all in it. So that's his team.
So he showed you a lot of Julio tape then.
Oh yeah, big fan of Julio. Big fan.
Khalil, thanks, man.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
Bro. Good luck, man. Look forward to watching you.
All right, John, that was Khalil Shakir. One thing, just real quick before we wrap it up here, he got me thinking about, we can talk about this another time, but he's talking about 7-on-7 and, all the guys. I do wonder, listening to him talk, not if it will become more of a valued trait, because it's always been a valued trait, but you can just kind of understand maybe competitiveness. If you're a scout, how could you draft a guy whose competitiveness you question? You hear it all the time in basketball.
Talent.
Yeah.
Physical attributes.
Can you make up for if you only play 80% of the snaps hard because you're so good, right? But
And
I
that's
can just
where you find yourself getting in a lot of trouble, right?
but you don't understand what I'm saying based on, we just talked about like 7-on-7 and, all the competition, all that, like listening to him talk about the combine, the competition of other guys. I can see how if you're a GM or a scout talking to Khalil Shakir, you go, the competitiveness is off the charts, right? And it shows up like when you watch him, we both watched a ton of him, like you see it on the field. It's not just talk.
And I maybe I asked the question the wrong way. When you're with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, like obviously when you're in the draft process, the sweet players at your position.
Yeah.
So I honestly respect it a lot. Like I'm not there to kiss these guys' ass, but I'm gonna size them up or whatever. But he knows. I mean, those guys are getting drafted high, right? And he, I think going into the combine, I think he was viewed more as like a 4th, 5th round pick. Again, that's a lot of. I mean, Kittle was a 5th. Like you can become a really good player. You run in the high 4.3s. One thing I got was like, yeah, we didn't expect him to run that fast. So clearly they view it more like he already plays really well. Like his tape speaks for itself. And then, like he just focused on training. All he has to do once he gets to the league is focus on football. You could argue that he's even going to get better, right? Because he's not a 5th-year senior. He played immediately at a program for not being a Power 5 power. They are viewed as it's not an easy program to just go in there and play immediately.
Yeah, I think there are things required of you that prepare you for the NFL, right? There's a level of buy-in that you have to have as a teammate, a level of work ethic you have to have, a level of your IQ. You just got to be smart, right? There's just a lot of things. Boise just a high level place. So we're not afraid to admit that.
I'm rooting for him to get drafted, and obviously you'd rather get drafted on the 2nd day than the 3rd day. That'd be pretty cool to be a 3rd round pick. Is not that being a 4th round pick sucks, but it's pretty cool to get drafted on Friday, right?
Yep. Khalil, go get him. Ham is rooting for you. Hopefully we can talk to him again soon, John, because we enjoyed that. Hope you guys did too. Ham out.
Peace.